Welcome to the Gita in Action podcast. My name's Radha, and I'm here with our family of seekers, and we are reading through the Bhagavad-gītā together, verse by verse, and trying to apply this ancient wisdom to our modern lives, which is actually not that hard, surprisingly. Well, one might think that it would be hard because it's so ancient and sometimes it seems unrelatable when we read it. But when we get together and we study its meaning and we really start to kind of contemplate deeply, we see just how much it's still so relevant to our lives. And that is so validating that it's just this universal wisdom. It's timeless and it's straight from God. And we're grateful. We're grateful to have this wisdom and to be here together in this association of like-minded people to study it. So before we start, I want to make a couple plugs again. Guatemala, what is it? 7/13. Okay, in 2 days, Guatemala early bird is over. So if you're thinking about going to Guatemala November 7th through the 14th, sign up today or tomorrow, and you still get the early bird pricing. And that trip, we're going to a sacred lake, which I think a lot of yoga teachers have been to because it's like a pretty popular spot in Guatemala for sacred endeavors. And we're going to be doing what we do. We'll have wisdom talks, connection sessions, kirtan, vegetarian food. We'll visit a sustainability village, check out the weavers. We'll check out a couple little small villages around the lake. We'll have like a fire ceremony guided by like a local Guatemalan, what do they call those? It starts with an S, spiritual person. We'll be doing lots of different activities. You can go kayaking on the lake if you want. Yeah. So please come with us. Shaman. Yes. Thank you, Nancy R. Thank you. Takes a village. Appreciate you. Oh, and then pilgrimage. Pilgrimage early bird is August 31st. So you still have a little bit of time on that, but start thinking about it if you're thinking about it. And that is February 12th through the 27th. And this pilgrimage is probably the most reasonable pilgrimage that you'll find because we don't do this to make money. We don't do this to make money. We do this as an offering of service and we try to keep it as accessible as possible. But we use all the same tour companies and everything that you'll find other places. So check that out and please come with us if you can. Our website, check out our website, consciouscollectivelife.org. That's our website. And all of this is on consciouscollectivelife.org. Okay, let's get into this. The Bhagavad Gita. Oh, one more plug that you'll see on there. August 28th through the 30th is a yoga festival at New Vrindavan. That's just a weekend. It's a short weekend. And we're having lots of yoga collaborators, local yoga teachers come and teach different classes. It's like a choose your own adventure style. So there's lots of different options, different time slots. And you can just choose what you do and what you don't. And New Vrindavan is beautiful and peaceful. And please come and give us your association. So lots of things that you can come join a community and connect with like-minded souls. Speaking of like-minded souls, Chantal, good to see you. I was thinking about you because we didn't get to see you Thursday. I'm happy you're here. Okay, friends, let's start. Popey, darling, can you say our prayers for us?
Yes. Amagnanaतिमिरन्धस्य ज्ञानाञ्जनशलाकया चक्षुरुन्मिलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरुवे नमः। नमो विष्णुपदाय कृष्णप्रस्थाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदान्ता स्वामिनिति नामिने। वञ्चकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपासिन्धुभ्येव च पतितानां पावनवेयो वैष्णवेयो नमो नमः। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद Sri Adaita Gadadhara Srivasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna.
Thank you. So beautiful. Wonderful. Okay, so let's get right into it. We are at 13.3 today. So, chapter 13, text 3. Poppy, would you read this one for us too? Is that okay? You can do just the translation or you can try the Sanskrit and translation if you're up for it, whatever you're feeling today.
I will read the translation. I don't want it to get there.
Okay, sure.
Uh, Translation. O scan of Bharata, you should understand that I am also the knower in all bodies, and to understand body, this body and its knower, it's called knowledge. That is my opinion. And am I
Yeah.
reading purport?
No, 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 no. We don't need to read the book. Thank you, though. That is my opinion, he says. So last week, Krishna introduced one of the biggest shifts in perspective in the Gita. This is one that we yoga teachers like to use a lot. And that is, I'm not this body. This body is the field. And the one who knows this body is called the knower of the field. And this again might seem simple, but it's a very profound realization. And if it really sinks in, it changes everything. Because most of us spend our lives thinking that we are this body. And Krishna says, no, you have a body. You experience a body, but you are not the body. You are the one experiencing it. And this is like such a shift in identity. It's a difference between saying, my car has a flat tire and I am a flat tire. It's like we never confuse ourselves with our car. We know we're the driver of our car. But every day we confuse ourselves with our bodies. When the reality is, a body is just a field for us. We're just the drivers of our bodies. And so Krishna's really inviting us to see things differently. And this truth is so amazing because it will set us free. It will change our relationship with ourselves, our relationships with others, when we can learn to see things more objectively, not based off of how is that person's body mind machine treating my body mind machine, but seeing them for who they actually are, and that is a living entity, that is part of God, and it totally sets us free. And Krishna calls it a field, which is such an interesting choice of words. A field, like a farmer's field, meaning that crops are growing there today, and those crops are the results of seeds that were planted months ago. Anybody garden? Anybody have a garden this year? I have a garden. I was just working in my garden yesterday, actually. I got lots of weeds. Because I'm like a procrastinator with pulling the weeds, and they come up, and it's a whole thing. So however whatever work you're doing in your garden, you're gonna see there's gonna be some harvest, and it doesn't happen by accident. We know that those of us that have a garden, there's some action that goes in, and our body works much in the same way. The body is the field in which the seeds of our previous karma are bearing fruit. Even the type of body that we get, you have a human body. It's you did some kind of karma to get that human body, as opposed to getting like the body of a pig or something. This is how precise karma is. So everything we're experiencing, the happiness, the challenges, the tendencies, the opportunities we receive, it's all because of seeds that we've planted before. I was just talking to somebody about who was with a job that they didn't quite love, and they're like, yeah, but if I leaving the job, like I'll just probably end up in a job that's exactly the same because this is some kind of karma that I have to get through. And I really appreciated that perspective. Sometimes it's like we just accepting this is the karma. We have to burn the karma because this is the karma we have in this field. You know? So they're all growing. All this is the point is it's all growing within this field according to the seeds that we've planted in the past. But something important, the farmer is not the field. He works within the field. He experiences the harvest, but he's different from it. Imagine over-identifying with your garden. I got a bunny in my garden who's eating all my green beans. Man, I would be really depressed if I thought those green beans were me. We can't always control everything either. So he experiences the harvest, but he's different from it. In the same way, the soul experiences the body, but is different from the body. So this raises another question. When Krishna says field, what exactly is he meaning? Is he talking about the physical body? Does it include the mind? Does it include the emotions, the personality, thoughts? So the Vedic tradition gives us another helpful way of understanding this. And this is a little bit of a detour, but it really ties into the Gita nicely. And I think it gives even a better context of what we're talking about. So we're going to go into it just a little bit. That's okay. And this is the five koshas. Or I like to look at them as different levels of consciousness. So before Krishna tells us who knows the field, it's helpful to understand what we're actually talking about when we say the field. And this is the koshas. The Upanishads describe the koshas. So it's not outlined in the Gita specifically. It's another Vedic text, the Upanishads. But again, we can think of them as different levels of consciousness, different ways of experiencing life. Different answers to this question, what is life really about? And everybody's at a different place, and even different species are at different places. So this is kind of like the system to help better understand that. And the first is called the Annamaya Kosha. And this kosha is primarily influenced by the mode of ignorance. That doesn't mean that it's bad. That just means that that's a material mode that it's associated with. And Anna means food. This level of consciousness is that life is all about consumption. Life is all about consumption. So you think about a newborn baby. Everything goes in the mouth. It's actually like the worst thing ever because you can't turn your eye for a second. Moms know this. Or it's like all of a sudden they've stuffed a whole like little iPad case, an iPod or AirPod case like in their mouth. It's just like ridiculous. Because that's how they're relating to the world. It's can I eat it? Life revolves around consumption. And we may smile at that, and think, oh, that's kind of sweet, and look at how silly that baby is, or. But if we're honest, a lot of adults don't leave this stage either. Like the objects may change. They might not be putting everything in their mouths anymore, but the mentality doesn't. It's still all about like, what should I buy? What should I eat? Like every night, it's like I want to go make money so that I can go to a new restaurant every night. And people get so into this eating, to consuming. What experience is going to satisfy me? So that's life. That's the level of consciousness. Life is just all around consuming. And our marketing, like our culture, loves to buy into this. Our culture like works off of this, consumer culture. It's the next great thing you can buy with that money you make. Okay, so then the next level, the next kosha is called the pranamaya kosha. And this kosha is influenced. Then now we're getting up to like passion. So it's a mixture though. It's still ignorant. It's ignorance and passion is what this kosha is influenced by the mode. And this is where you get a little bit more evolved and life becomes a little bit more about survival. So for the baby learns like, okay, not everything that goes into my mouth is good for me. Life is becomes a little bit less about consumption and more about survival. So security, health, comfort, protection. I see this phase in my baby now. She like it can't leave the room. I can't leave her with anybody else, or she goes nuts. She's realizing like she's separate and she needs some level of protection and security. Because I'm that for her. When I leave, she associates it with like not being safe. So eventually, babies start to evolve to this kosha. And animals spend almost their entire lives at this level. Not almost, like their entire lives are at this level. This is where your dogs are, your cats are. They're making decisions not just based on consumption, but also on their security and their safety, their survival. So here our worries might become a little bit more sophisticated, like will I have enough money? Will I be okay? Will I be accepted? Life becomes just organized around survival. And again, sometimes humans get very stuck here. And it can be difficult, if there's things that in our lives that we need for survival that we can't that we don't have regularly. There's people that don't know when they're going to have their next meal. Sometimes it's inevitable. It's just a person's karma that they get kind of stuck at this level. No, you don't really have the capacity for higher thinking because really your needs aren't met. So this is an important level. Most of us here have some opportunity to go beyond this level. Most of us here aren't worried about the next meal that we're gonna get, and that's a blessing. That's a blessing. That's a blessing in this human life because the difference between this human body and the animal body is that we have the capacity to go beyond this level, go beyond this level of consciousness to the next level, which is Manamaya Kosha. This level is about understanding. This level is more associated with the mode of goodness. This is when we start asking deeper questions, like how not just like how do I survive, but like why do I think the way I do? Why did I react like that? I think about Mariah. It's Mariah. Mariah loves analyzing these things. I love analyzing these things too, but I know Mariah does also. Why do I keep repeating the same patterns? One of a simple way to think about this is like animals can think, but human beings can think about their thinking. So it's like being conscious that you're thinking about your thinking. It's like a whole different level of consciousness. You're not just primal anymore, just responding, just acting. You're becoming more thoughtful. You begin to observe the mind instead of reacting to it. And there's like volumes of the Vedas that are dedicated to helping us at this level. Very important level. Okay, so we're climbing up this ladder of consciousness. So we go from just everything is food, I need food, consumption, to survival, to now getting a little bit more thoughtful, understanding that like thinking about our thinking. So this is where our consciousness is climbing, and we're going more towards this place of being the observer. So then we get to the fourth kosha. There's five of them, if we remember, five of them. Okay, and this kosha. Um, is where we've realized that we're more than our mind. Our awareness starts deepening. And we get to this next place of thinking, okay, if I can observe my thoughts, if I can observe my thoughts, then I must not be my thoughts. Then who is that person that's observing them? If I can watch my emotions come and go, who is watching them? So this is like the birth of spiritual inquiry. We begin realizing like, okay, maybe I'm not my thoughts. Maybe I'm not even my mind. Maybe I'm this conscious self experiencing both. It's quite powerful and it's quite logical too. And now we're starting to transcend the modes. And that's where we get to this final kosha, Anandamaya kosha. This is a level of transcendence. This is where we get to this, our consciousness rises to this place where we understand life is about loving. This is a deeper layer. Ananda means bliss, and not just happiness, but bliss. It comes from it comes from reconnection with source. So it's not that we're just souls. It's not that we just realize, oh, there's somebody different than me and my thoughts. It's that we're souls meant for loving relationship. So this is the next level. This is so beautiful the way that the Vedas describe this. So 5 levels of consciousness. I really like this analogy, like an onion, pulling back layer by layer. We move closer to the center. So spiritual life is much the same. We gradually peel away the coverings that keep us from seeing who we've always been. We move from this place of I'm this body to this place of I have a body. I have a mind, but I am a soul. And then finally we get to the place where I belong to God. And every one of us will move through these layers at our own pace. Okay. And the goal isn't to judge ourselves for where we are. The goal is just to keep growing. And so this provides like a map, to move from consuming to surviving to understanding to realizing, and then finally to loving. And when we see, our field that has this map, our field's our body, our mind vehicle, and this is the map to describe, where it is. It becomes we can it also enables us to be a little bit more of an observer. We can become less frustrated about where we are and where we're not, and just understand, this is simply the journey and now that we have this knowledge, we have the tools and the GPS system, the correct GPS system, to navigate this terrain that we're on in a way that will elevate us ultimately to this final kosha of Anandamaya kosha, this place of bliss. And that's what we're all doing here today. And it also helps us understand other people are also just moving through this terrain, moving through this map of consciousness and are at different places. And that's also okay. We don't have to make that mean anything about us. This is why I said this knowledge, it liberates you. I was just talking before we went live about my relationship with my dad, which is a struggle. But as I get more as I study this knowledge more and more, and I start to and it really starts to kind of seep into me, it becomes much easier to become an observer of even that relationship and that dynamic. And when we become the observer, we can become much clearer around what it is and what it isn't. When we make it mean something about ourselves, things get very confusing. We lose that clarity. So the more space we can have between this, the field and the observer of the field, starting with our own bodies, the more clarity that we'll have as we move around this world. It's quite a gift. Okay, so the point is that every one of us has these koshas, the body, the energy, the mind, the intellect, even the bliss, we experience. They're all still part of this field, and they're all things that we experience. But none of them is actually the experiencer. So this is what leads us to the next question, and this is where we're getting to this verse. Who is experiencing all of this? And Krishna's already answered that. He said the soul, our individual soul, the knower of the field. But he goes even deeper than that. And that's where we're going to go next. Before we go there next, is there anything that anybody would like to share? Any comments, reflections, questions before we move on?
Hare Krishna. I just want to thank you so much. That was beautiful about the koshas. But I kept on thinking that there takes willingness to want to grow. If I'm living in ignorance and I just get sort of stuck in like that, maybe not the second level, but maybe the third level, where we're asking questions, but we're not willing to surrender. We're just like, well, okay, now I'm in control of everything. There takes this willingness to and sort of fearlessness to move on, I think, and I think that's important for me to have that humility that I don't know, and therefore I need to be surrendering. So, thank you so much for letting me share.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you, Nancy. And you know what's also a struggle for me that I realized? Also accepting where other people are and that that's also okay. Like sometimes I'm like, you don't want to grow, you don't want to get better, but it's like that's okay. That's their, they're the knower of they get to choose. Everybody has a field and everybody gets to choose for their own field. And 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 based off that, then we choose, how we interact with that field. And that's called healthy relationships. Right? So that's some work. That's some work around me. Okay, thank you though. That was very nice.
Hare
Anybody
Krishna.
else before we move on?
I have a question.
Yes.
What is meant when Krishna says, "That is my opinion"?
Oh, we're gonna get there.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
We're gonna get there. We'll get there at the end.
Great.
Okay, so we zoomed in, we double clicked on the field. We understand the koshas. And now we're talking about the who's actually experiencing the field. Who's, and Krishna says the soul and the knower of the soul. That's not all. He says in this verse, he says, I am also the knower in all bodies. I am also the knower in all bodies. So everything we've discussed so far has focused on our awareness. Now Krishna introduces another knower. So there's actually two knowers of the same field. The first is the individual soul. I know my body. I know my thoughts. I know when I'm tired. I know when I'm joyful. But my knowledge is limited. I don't know your thoughts. Anybody ever see that movie? Man, it had Helen Hunt in it. It was like What Women Want, where the man then all of a sudden like hears women's thoughts. And it's like it's like mind blowing. It's one of those things like you think you want to know what people are thinking, but then you realize maybe I don't. My knowledge is limited. You know, I don't know how exactly every part of my body functions. Just like my garden outside. Like I can weed it, I can water it, but I can't control that bunny's going to come in and eat all my green beans. It's just like this is just how the field is. Some things we can control, some things we just can't. Some things we don't even understand. Like I don't know why I said that, or I don't know why I reacted the way that I did. Okay, that's our limited knowledge. That's the soul. But the super soul, good news is, there's also another observer, and that's the super soul. That's God in the heart. God knows everything. God knows every field in and out. If you think about this for a minute, there's like, what, 8 billion people on this planet? So every thought, every prayer, every fear, every hope, every heartbeat, Krishna knows them all. And he knows them all perfectly. This is why he's called Paramatma. He's a super soul dwelling within every heart. So there's two observers, the individual soul and the super soul, God in the heart. And then Krishna says something fascinating. He says to understand this body and its knower is called knowledge. And this is a much broader definition of knowledge than we're used to. Today, we think of knowledge, we usually think of things about matter, like the study of matter, physics, medicine, technology, biology, like basically, how can I manipulate all the fields around me for what I want? And these are wonderful things, but they mostly study one reality, and that's matter. They're all in this genre of matter. But Krishna says that complete knowledge includes three realities. So that's just part of the story. You go to school, you get a degree, you get a PhD. Beautiful, wonderful. It's just part of the story. Full knowledge includes understanding matter, understanding the individual soul, and understanding the supreme soul. And until we understand all three of these, our understanding of reality is incomplete. Can't just study the observer. We have to understand, we can't just study, this phone. We have to understand who's looking at this phone. Or even I see in myself, I'll talk about my relationship with my dad again. The way I saw him when I was a kid is much different than the way that I see him now and has continually evolved. And that's not because he's changed a whole lot. He's changed a little bit, not a whole lot. But it's more because the field that I'm observing him through has changed. And we spend so much time obsessing over what it is that we're observing, but not a lot of time putting a lot into the mechanism of by which we are observing that. And that makes such a difference. You know that, like the difference between a crappy telescope and a super sophisticated one. What we're going to see is quite different. So we have to think about that. Through which are we observing this? So when we talk about the individual soul and the supreme soul, we should understand the relationship between them as well. This is part of knowledge as well. They're both conscious and they're both spiritual. They both they're of that same quality, that spiritual quality, but they're not of the same quantity. As we know, our consciousness is finite. Krishna's consciousness is infinite. We know just one field, and even that we don't know that well. He knows every field, and he knows them in and out. So this understanding is what Krishna calls real knowledge. And as our consciousness evolves, we learn to this field sharpens, and the soul's qualities can shine through more clearly. And that's what so much of the Gita teaches us to do. How to deal with this field so that it doesn't cover up the soul's qualities just emanating from it, because the soul is of the same quality as God. Think about that for a minute. It's eternal. It's full of knowledge. It's full of bliss. But it gets very covered by our conditioning. And then we mistake that conditioning for us. And then it's like the soul gets completely buried. So when we understand this, it changes the way that we see our bodies. Most of us naturally think, this is my body. This is my body. And in one sense, that's true. We've been given responsibility for our bodies. We decide how to use it, where it goes, what it says, what it does. But at the same time, our control is temporary, just like everything else in this world. It's temporary. It's like an Airbnb that we rent. We have the freedom for a little bit, or maybe like a long-term Airbnb, like that we can decorate, we can take care of, we can invite friends over. But eventually, our time is going to be up. The lease is going to be up, and we have to hand back over the keys. Our body is the same. Like, none of us chose necessarily when we entered it. None of us can guarantee how long that we'll stay. One day we'll all leave. We'll all leave our bodies. We're not the ultimate owners. We're just given it for a short time to take care of. You could say we're tenants. We're tenants of this body. The true owner is Krishna. And this is also so freeing because it reminds us that we don't have control over everything. Our job isn't ownership. Our job is stewardship. And this changes the question, like instead of asking, how can I use this body for my purposes? We begin asking, how can I use this body in the service of its true owner? Once we understand that it's actually not ours, this is a natural question. It's not ours. how can I use it in the service of its true owner? That's what it's actually, that's its constitutional position. That's what it's made for. We have the free will, yes, to use it however we like. Because without free will, there'd be no love. And Krishna's only interested in our love. He's complete. He doesn't need anything from us. But he wants our love. And free will is required for that. So we have these bodies and we can do with it what we like. But what it's really designed for, what its true purpose is to serve its owner, its true owner. It's true. We're not the proprietors. Krishna's a proprietor. And when we use it in service of its true owner, we realize all of our problems are solved. Maybe we still, maybe we still have problems, but they don't affect us as much. Our perception of them is not so huge because we see things in a much larger perspective. Our consciousness is much evolved. We see things clearly for what they are and what they aren't. And we see that this may be affecting me, my body, mind, vehicle, machine, but this is just a little blip. No need to get so caught up in it. I had this experience of, I went to a japa retreat a couple weeks ago. I think I shared this with a couple of you. And we'd had a day where we chanted 64 rounds. Actually, on July 4th, we chanted 64 rounds. And that means like 8, 9 hours of chanting on meditation beads. And, I had this realization. I'm very attached to this practice, by the way. I chant 2 or 3 hours a day. I'm very attached to it. And I had this realization that I'm so attached to it because it gives me such peace of mind. And that's oftentimes my relationship with it. Like, oh, I need to chant. It's like my security blanket, which isn't necessarily bad, but our practice, even our meditation practice, is really a service to God. It's really a service to God. We chant for God's pleasure. We chant God's names for his pleasure. That's the highest, like when our consciousness is very evolved, this is our perspective of it. Like it's not just, oh, this gives me so much peace, let me do it. It's not about me and my comfort and my security, right? That's a little bit lower level of consciousness, which is okay because the practice itself is purifying. And as we continue, we'll have more and more of a service attitude around it. Krishna will arrange that. And that's what happened to me at this japa retreat. I had that realization and I thought, okay, let me try to just chant in that mood of service. Just chant as an offering to God. So I'm doing the same thing, but I'm changing my consciousness around it. And what I saw was that it actually this also set me free. When I got home that night and my family wanted to go see the fireworks in Chicago, which is like, an hour plus drive in like an environment that I'm, not super excited about. It was like, you know what, let me do this as no, let me do this as service to my family. Let me and so when we start the day off like that, when we start the day off chanting in this mood of service, it that um it, that mood infiltrates the rest of our day. We start to realize, hey, I'm actually the servant. I'm not the owner of anything, including myself, my own field, not my family's field, not my field. I'm the servant of that who owns all of the fields, and that is God. And how can I best serve God in this moment? It becomes very liberating because we're not so clinging on to like, I need this for me, for my survival, it becomes an offering and it becomes quite freeing. So this is something I've been trying on and actually realizing that, I thought I got so much security from like, I need to make this happen, but actually the real security, the real peaceful security is in how can I serve you? It's revolutionary and it's simple in practice, but it's simple in like theory, but it's difficult in practice, but it changes everything. Okay, Kalachandji, so now we're getting to this place. This is my opinion. This is my opinion. This is what Krishna says at the very end of this verse. He says, this is my opinion. And it sounds like, it could sound a little humorous, like why is Krishna saying just like, well, that's just how I see it. But we should understand that Krishna isn't just one philosopher among many. He is the absolute truth. Our opinions may or may not line up with reality, depending on what level of consciousness we're at. Yours, mine, yours might not happen. Krishna's opinion doesn't merely just describe reality, but it is reality. Nothing obscures his vision. He sees these things exactly as they are. But when he says this is my opinion. It's like a form of humility. He's saying, this is my opinion. Choose it or not. Believe it or not. This is my opinion. It's for us to decide, and it's for us to decide, do we see Krishna as God? Do we accept God in our lives? Do we really accept God? Do we really believe God? Do we really align our lives with God's will? That is our decision. And Krishna gives us that decision. He gives us that free will again. Because without it, what's the point of love? There isn't. Anybody ever been in a relationship like that? I have. This was revolutionary for me when I learned this. It wasn't until I started studying the Gita that I learned that control is not love. That if a relationship is suffocated by control, there's no space for love to grow. So anyway, Krishna says, this is my opinion. We know, we know that it's more than an opinion, that this is the ultimate reality. But again, that's for us to decide. So the heart of the verse, the beauty of this verse isn't just that Krishna knows everything. He knows you. He knows your heart. He knows your fears, your hopes, your struggles, your prayers, your whole journey. He's been present through just every stage of your life. This is what we really should take out of this verse. And so this chapter, it's not just an invitation to become more self-aware. It's an invitation to become aware of the one who has always been aware of us. No matter what field we're in, he's always been there with us, aware. And this is one of the most comforting realizations in all the Gita, because throughout our lives, we spend so much time trying to understand ourselves. It's like paralysis, analysis paralysis. Who am I? Why do I think this way? Why do I struggle with these things? And these are important questions. But don't get so stuck on these questions. This is the third kosha you talked about. You get very into this. These are good questions, but don't get stuck there. Continue asking, continue your journey of evolved consciousness, to get to this final place of who's been with me through all of it. And the answer is the Paramatma, God in the heart, the supreme knower. He's witnessed every joy, every disappointment, every success, every failure. He's never left our side. And when we start to recognize his presence within our own heart, spiritual life stops becoming just a search for self-understanding, but it becomes the beginning of a relationship with the one who's known us all along. And this is the true point of spiritual life. This is what we're actually trying to do. Develop relationship. This is spirituality. This is true spirituality. So that's all that I had for you today. I would love to hear some reflections. Chakti. Dear.
Hey, Krishna, thank you for that beautiful sort of explanation of the koshas and kind of an overview of, God in the heart, and then God, sort of the Supersoul. It was really beautiful how you explained it. Makes it a lot more understandable. Um, but I feel like there's another piece um, to this. There's, and even like maybe like I'm thinking about even this with your father. Like, so there are there's the super soul, and there's the individual soul, and then you were talking about like sort of making the decision kind of to um, like if not like some people just don't want to grow, and so they're just going to maybe stay in that place. They don't want to grow, they're going to stay there. But then there's also karma, and then there's also people that want to grow. So maybe your dad, maybe he doesn't want to grow, but he's doing the 12 years or whatever it may be to be close to, maybe he's realizing he wants a relationship. Whatever his, I don't know what his reasons are, but maybe he's making that choice for some reasons. But then there's also people that aren't making a choice to not be better, to not grow, to not um, be more accepting, be more anything, because they have a karma that has been set in them that even though they may pray, they may do all the things, right? Their sadhana is clear, their sadhana is there, and it's their main focus. Krishna still is the doer. He's the driver. He's the driver of my soul. So even though there's certain things about me and the way that I want to change and I want to grow, it doesn't move and go tomorrow. Even though I know it's something I don't want to do. I know it's a way I don't like reacting or acting or whatever it may
Mm,
be, but I'm not in control of when that change happens. So I
mm,
can want to grow and I can do the things, but it's not on my time.
mm,
And that's, I think, for me, that's the hardest piece,
mm,
because I feel like I'm stuck in limbo where there's things in my life, things about what I want to do, things about what I want to change and grow, and but it's not happening yet. So
mm,
then, do I, get mad at Krishna and get, or so that's where for me, I have the biggest space where I need acceptance. I need to
mm,
accept this is where I am. I know I'm a good person. This is just not even. I'm just saying it's not something I'm going through. It's just something I'm sharing, that I think that we have to accept where we're at and do our sadhana anyway, and
mm.
and keep praying for the change of things that maybe we want to change and we want to grow. Do you know what I mean?
Mhm.
Like, it's not,
Yeah,
sometimes, yes, it is the choice, and
yeah.
sometimes people are not making the choice to grow. They're like, you know what, I've grown enough, I'm good. But
So
then there's, yeah.
I think what I would say to that is that, we hear this staircase of consciousness or this evolution of consciousness. It's maybe not a staircase because it's not so discrete, but it's this evolution of consciousness. But we should understand that everybody moves at their own place or moves at their own pace from their own place. And you may feel like that person is not growing or I'm not growing or but if you have the desire, if your desire to grow is sincere, you are growing. And that there is a difference there. Like I even had a conversation with my dad with my dad right before he left. He's like, you know what, Rachel, this is just who I am. This is who I'm gonna be. This is who I want to be. And I was like, you know what? You're right, Dad. You do you. Like that some people just they don't want to and they'll just say that. This is who I am. This is who I am. Some people are like, you know what? Like to the degree that your desire is sincere, but you're right. That doesn't mean that just because your desire is sincere, you're gonna go from like, North Carolina to San Diego in half a second. Some people will. Some people have a vehicle, just like you said, that their karma, they have a Ferrari and they'll be able to get across the states in a day flat. And it might because your field is different than others. You may be driving a 1980s clunker and it might take you some time. That's okay. but you're still growing. A person is still growing if they want to grow. But it just might not be, relatively speaking, a person may not feel that or see that. But this is why it's not for us even to judge. We don't know who wants, unless they tell us, hey, I don't want to grow, like my dad did. We don't really know. So, but it does happen. We shouldn't feel like it does, it doesn't because of our field. But to your point, some of us drive a Ferrari, some of us drive a clunker. That's okay. We're still gonna get there.
I want to just add to that. It's for me, and this is now about me, is that it's the most, it's the hardest place to be, and when I'll say like I'll say I'm in this particular area, I'm not growing. George will say, "Oh my God, like you have changed so much," and I'm like,
Mm,
"I haven't. This is like, why am I still doing this? Blah blah blah." And he can see the change because he's around me 24, 24/7, but he's
mm,
with me if so, and I trust in some, like if it was just, I don't know, some girlfriend of mine be like, yeah, no, you're good. Like I talk to people that are in my program, that I, mentors, people that I'm friends with, that are devotees, and my husband, and to see like what's happening, because sometimes I can't see it,
mm.
right? And that becomes the heaviest burden, when you feel like you're not changing, but you're sincere and you're trying. So
Yeah,
yeah.
beautiful. Thank you so much, Shakti, for that real and vulnerable. And I can tell you're growing. Even this conversation, I could see that you've grown. Um, but it's hard. It's just like when you're around someone every day, you don't see the change as much. I don't see that my daughter's growing every day, but I take her to the sitter after a weekend and she's like, whoa, she's grown just in 3 days. I'm like, oh, really? I haven't noticed. So let's give ourselves, some grace and others some grace. But that's beautiful. Thank you, Shakti. Anybody else have any reflection or anything they want to share? Aaron, you are looking so radiant over there, and I can see your belly too.
Hare Krishna. um, yeah, I can really relate to what Shakti was just sharing, and I just was thinking like how it's kind of ironic that we do all these practices to like cleanse the mirror, and yet it's like we're too close to the mirror, yeah, and of course, I can definitely we can all be our own worst critics, but um, I also really appreciate what you shared about your japa practice because I feel like just very much in that space um, of like using it. Like I use my japa, um, and yeah, I think it also like um, it's me feeling like I'm using my japa to feel peaceful or to relax or whatnot. Is kind of maybe what makes me feel like it's not a service because I'm like it's I'm benefiting from and I know we would benefit from it regardless um but yeah it's just an interesting timing because I have a call with my mentor later today and I was like I should talk to her about this and then you're talking about it this morning. um but yeah, just things to be thinking about.
Mm, yeah, beautiful. And it's sometimes we get things from our service, and that's not to say the bad thing, because ultimately service fills our heart. We get the most from service. But it's more to the degree our desire, as our desire gets purified and it's for Krishna's pleasure, we actually experience the most pleasure. But it can't be because we want it. This is like the mind trick of life. It's like anything. We learn this lesson, like you want a spouse so bad, you want a partner so bad, you're trying, you're on all the dating apps, blah blah blah. As soon as you stop trying, all of a sudden they land in your life. It's like the similar principle, not really the same thing, but you could see the principle the same. But it's okay, whatever. In the meantime, sometimes it keeps us attached. I'm grateful to have that relationship with Japa because it keeps me attached. But at the same time, we should never want to stop growing. We should aspire to keep growing, and evolving and understanding that that's not the highest, but it's doesn't mean it's bad. Yeah. Okay, any final reflections before we leave for the day? So good to be here with you all.
I have a quick question. What were the stages again of Koshas? Had tourism, survival,